Hi, Afif.
Hi, it's great to see you.
It's great to see you as well. Afif is a friend of mine, a good friend of mine. We got to know each other almost 4 years ago. I think 4 years ago at this point,
Yeah,
while working on the project Open Bulgaria together. And I was immediately impressed by your kindness, by your optimism, by the loving presence that you always have towards people. No matter the people, you always have this
thank you.
attitude towards them that they're good and maybe they're hiding it really well, but you always find a way to appreciate everything that life gives you. So you can introduce yourself better, I'm sure. And I wanted to start with your maybe first week or first day of immigration. What do you remember and how it was for you?
I'm Afif. I'm from Iran. I studied IT and I moved from my country to here to develop my skills and as well fulfill my dream, which I couldn't reach them in my country. If I want to talk about the first week or the first day, it was somehow complicated, maybe more than others because I'm from Middle East and especially more countries a bit isolated. When I get here, the landlord supposed to be in the airport to take us to home, but no one was there. I had no phone, and all the night we were traveling, so it was so funny. And then a taxi driver helped us. He called by his phone, and then we managed to find the landlord, and it was mixed up. And then we get home, everything was, how can I say, everything for me was different because the culture, the way of living, even I can say about how you work with bank, everything was different, the language. But a good point was that I found Bulgarian people from first day friendly, despite maybe some of them don't understand your language because I was speaking English. They were trying to help you, which had a good impact on us. And the other point was, the nature made me fall in love and made me feel more comfortable and relaxed to stay here. That's the things I remember from first days.
You said we have been traveling, right?
Yeah.
We have been trying to find this new life together. I know that you're talking about your life partner Hamid, right? How has it been for you to immigrate together, to face these challenges together, to maybe evolve in some ways together thanks to that?
Well, it has its own ups and downs because, in one hand, I've never been alone. Someone always was next to me. In the other hand, lots of new experiences bring lots of challenges to your relationship. Whatever happened, it's not like it's for one of us and the other one can just support you to pass that situation. It was for both of us. Both of us were in a stress. Like when we were out of job in the first months, as we both were same. It wasn't like one of us has a certain job and say, okay, don't worry, you will find. No, we both were in the same situation. And sometimes it calls fight even, because you are in a stressful situation. And as I mentioned, despite having someone always next to you, it had lots of down with it because we were trying to help each other, but same time it bring lots of conflict in our relationship. And thanks God we could manage and pass all of that.
I see you guys as pretty mature in that sense, and you are quite decisive and maybe strict as well with certain boundaries when it comes to what your life is right now and how you want it to be compared to where you're coming from, right? Like the culture in Middle East is different than it is in Europe. How did you manage to navigate that here?
Regarding culture, I can say it wasn't that much hard for me because I wasn't that much match in the community that I were living there. I grew up in a very religious family While I've never believed in such a stuff by myself, coming was somehow such a relief for me because I could communicate with people who have the same ideology. And regarding culture, maybe the only thing a bit different for me was food. The other things, it wasn't hard for me to match. And generally, I'm such a people that can match with other people fast. I try to always look at the positive point and follow that part because no matter which situation you're living, no matter how rich you are or which country you are living, always there is some negative point. And if you want to follow them, you never survive. And you should just help yourself to pass those situations. I always try to see positive point and always try to understand people even if they are unconsciously hurting me. I try to understand why they are doing that, so in this way I can pass that easier.
I start hearing a line of thought that you seem to repeat, which is optimism, which is trust, which is this kindness that you have. Do you think it is some kind of trait that migrants should have in order to adapt better and to survive faster, easier, maybe?
I think you should have. I'm not saying that be optimist all the time. No, always you should consider the reality, but at the same time, don't focus on the negativity. Yes, it's so important because when you change your location, people around you, the culture, everything, there are lots of negative things around you. If you want to focus on them, you cannot survive. I know many people that they are living maybe 20 years abroad and still they are saying, oh, it's so hard for me because my friends are around me. But come on, it's 20 years, I can say, big part of your life. You're living somewhere else, so you should make friends. Yes, maybe they are not exactly same your friend in childhood, but still they can be even better because you are choosing them when you are mature. But you can consider lots of other points. Despite considering reality, you always should be optimist as much as possible. I'm not saying ignore negativity, I'm saying don't focus on them.
I love this kind of line of thought because I feel that in my life as well, there have been so many things that could have broken me. There's just so much that happened. It was a bit aggravated by the fact that I was alone and I was in a different country. Somehow I managed to stay this optimist no matter what, maybe even more so after all these stories, after all these life situations. It is a really big strength, this optimism, this faith in people, love for life, and this resolution to actually live a good life, right? Because we make this choice of moving somewhere despite in many ways it is much easier to stay, but we choose this more difficult path. And the more we proceed, the more we understand that we can actually do more. We can endure more. We can become stronger. We can reach some success that we would never think about even existed or was available for us, right?
Yeah, true. I totally agreed with what you say. And I know, as I'm your friend, I know how strong you were regarding lots of challenges you had in your personal life. I totally agree that it's your strength that no matter what is happening for you, you always looking in the future and the certain point that you want to achieve, and that is what helped you. And I think people can look at it as in this point or in this attitude as a role model to survive in the challenges. Yes.
Thank you. Well, I consider you a role model as well in your activism, in your passion, in your strength. What we're talking about is what has been happening in the past several months in your country. Just as much as my country in Ukraine, there has been so much unrest and challenges, and people are fighting for their lives, for their freedom, for everything that they believe in. Can you give us a bit more of what you have been working on these past months in regards to Iran.
Yeah, living in Iran is a bit harder than other country regarding having very strict and dictatorship government, which make life harder for people. I was one of them who was living there. I'm not saying victim because I don't see myself like that, because I can say those challenges made me stronger or made me who I am now, because I was living in another way and I always had lots of problem there. Despite starting new life, everything was better, the future was brighter, everything was nice, but you never forget your family, your friend in your homeland. When this crisis started, I felt duty, I felt some responsibility that now I can speak up. They can't, the world will not hear them, but I have opportunity to be their voice. That is why I try to speak up and stand for them, and I try to shout as loud as possible so people can hear them. People can see how they are suffering, especially women in Iran, because they don't have that much right. That is why I'm trying to be their voice. We had lots of protests. I've tried to participate to different meetings to make people understand, normal people and also the government, as much as I could and was possible for me to understand the situation in Iran, how the government treating people and how they are trying to lie to the world that the situation is in another way, which is not true, because it's not possible for people who are not in contact with people in Iran understand what is exactly happening there. And the government is always showing another picture which is not true. That's responsibility for us, for Iranian who are living abroad, to be their voice.
Yeah. And I saw you really active in this. You have been part of these protest manifestations, you have been on TV, you have given interviews. I feel this calm, grounded power that might actually make a change. They felt much more this kind of calming presence, even if the topic is very difficult and it's very distressful.
Thank you. Maybe it's my attitude that I always face like that with challenges. I try to stay as calm as possible. I'm not saying I'm always calm because sometimes I lose my temper also. In this situation, you can handle and manage the problem easier, because the topic, as you mentioned, by itself had lots of stress. I experienced lots of stress, even I can say somehow depression, things, but the life will not stop for you. So you always should adapt yourself with the situation. That's what I'm trying to do, to stay calm, to manage the situation as much as possible.
The situation in your country, the situation in my country, it used to be something out of normality. And still in the global community, in the world, it is out of normality. It still shakes us, it bothers us. And what I'm thinking about is the future. Especially, there are a lot of conversations about migration related to climate change that is ahead of us and is going to be a big problem for the world. Just like right now, migration is already not handled very well in many, many places. I don't even know which countries really handle them well. What I'm arriving to is our internal turmoil, our feelings about us leaving the place where we couldn't possibly live anymore. And I personally have a bit of guilt towards the fact that I am not there, even though I understand that it's not logical for me to even want to be there. It's not something that I should be feeling upset about. Life is life, and we all try to survive the way we can. But there is this cultural aspect, there is this heritage that we have, our history, our family, like you said, something that ties us to the place. When you see your country in such pain, it touches something really deeply in you, and it brings this depression, brings this tears, it's very difficult to even understand, and then to try to manage to detach from, because you also need to take care of yourself somehow. You can't just crawl and stay in bed days. It happened to me. I couldn't do things. In the first week of war, it was just not possible for me to function normally. It's not a topic that I'm obviously very happy about discussing, but it is something that I fear is going to become a reality for more people in the future. What do you think could be some practice or some remedy or some self care activity or routine that we can share with people, and hopefully they will never have to use it? But it is something that I see might be happening a bit more.
Yeah, it's true, and it's sad reality, as you mentioned. The condition regarding migrating would be worse and worse. Regarding climate change, the situation which is happening, like in Iran, in China, in Ukraine, in Russia, in many countries, the government fight, but the normal people are people who are suffering, and they sometimes forced to leave their country, like what happened some years ago in Syria. Million people migrated to Europe, and it was really chaotic that the countries, that the government should decide what they want to do with these much people that they came suddenly in their country. You should support them. They have lots of things to decide, and we are not on that situation. What we can do is supporting them emotionally. Self-care is something which is so important, that no matter in which situation you are, if you're happy and if you're not, you should do it. But when you are in a stress and under pressure, it's like a very strong change that you can grab and stick yourself. It's like you're in the sea and there is a storm, and it's the only thing that you can count on to survive. And it helped me a lot also, because it's only you who can help you. The other people, they just can support emotionally, and maximum they can just stay next to you or give you a home or something like that, not more. The other thing is happening inside you. The biggest part is inside your brain, not outside. The way that you think is the most important part. If you love yourself, if you help yourself, if you take care of yourself or not, no matter how the others treat you, that's the important part, is you.
I already heard two lessons that maybe we can underline, we can emphasize right now. The first one was to stay optimistic, even cultivate this optimism. Maybe you are not a very optimistic person by nature. Confirm to yourself that you can deal with everything, that you can manage, you can find a way, you can ask for help. And the optimism of resolving problems and facing them with courage. Yes, you're scared, but do it anyway. People that I'm immigrants who have moved the furthest, they took these steps and they managed to recreate their lives from scratch and maybe achieve something even bigger than they imagined before. These are the people who had this kind of optimism and faith in themselves. And related to that is obviously self care and appreciation for who you are, taking care of yourself on good and on bad days as well, and teaching others who you see are in such a situation how to make it better for themselves, how to treat themselves with care, with love, with appreciation. I totally agree with you that it is probably one of the most important things. And just as the world is finally seeing it, the self care topic, self love, is very popular in many different contexts. It is even more important for us, for those who face this kind of challenges. There are immigrants and immigrants. There are different kinds of immigrants, different reasons why we migrate. I think you and I understand it a bit differently. We left because the culture we lived in way before all this political problem that we have right now. It was not somewhere we could really grow and thrive and do our best for the world. That's how I see it. And I know that people look down upon us. It is true that we face certain discrimination, starting from how we can get our papers, how we can get our permits, how we can get to work. It's much more difficult. We can't sugarcoat it. It's just how it is. Just based on where you're from, things are more difficult or easier, and it's not very fair. So when we face that and we stay resilient, we stay stronger, we stay optimistic, we get in so much stronger than the average, right?
Yeah.
I truly want to hear more stories of people like you who had to go beyond what is even considered to be a normal immigrant journey. So then you can teach us, you can show us how we can be doing something good for the world.
You know, you always have to expect to consider in such a situation. When I immigrate, I can always think, oh my God, I always daily compare my life with the past or my past, my childhood with people who are living here and always think why I didn't have this opportunity, why, blah, why, and always feel pity or accept the fact that it wasn't in your hand, that you grow up in a country that you didn't like, in some part of it at least. But now you can make change and focus on that part. Like there was a quote that I've heard some days ago, which really touched me. Pain is something that always comes for all people in their life, but suffering from that pain is your choice. If you accept, okay, pain is part of my life and I should pass it, or always mourning and crying and say, oh my God, I'm in pain, I'm in pain, okay, it will not help. Yes, you can do it some days. The first week that you heard about the war in your country, you were not functioning well, or maybe couldn't move from your bed. Okay, 1 week, not more. And after that, you start to work, start to walk, and try to manage your situation. That is what you should do. That is what I'm saying about being optimistic. When I face such a thing, I always think, can I change it or not? If I can change it, I will do my best to do. But if I cannot, why should I focus on that? I cannot change it. I should accept it's part of my life and look at good part to survive, to feel happy, because looking at the other part will not help me at all. I'm not saying that I'm living in a very happy life, everything around me I love. No, it's a big lie if I say that. But I'm trying to focus on what is helpful and what is positive and help me to reach the goal that I have. And that is what I'm saying to people. One of my weakest part is I am so perfectionist, and it bothered me a lot, especially when I came here, because people who are like that, they always want everything be perfect, they want everything be in a good way. The first year, all the time I was trying different courses because I was feeling I'm not good enough. If someone knew something that I didn't, it was like a disaster. And I was like, oh my God, I'm behind schedule. In a certain point, I look at myself and said, what are you doing with yourself? You are killing yourself. And no one in the world is perfect, and nothing can be perfect. You should just like accept you can try to be your best, but the reality is you cannot make everything good. Do as much as you can and then accept the result. Sometimes the result is failing, sometimes no. The important is that you try, because if you don't try, it's not a success. Definitely it's not a success. If it's not a fail, it's not a success as well. This is something come from my experience, and painful experience, actually, I can say. I'm still working on that. I think I become much better than before, because I know many people who are looking at the world in this way, and I can imagine how much suffering they have in their heart and how much extra challenge they add to their life, which is not real.
Yeah, it comes with this desire to control. We are trying to be on top of things so that we can be ready. We are scared of being unprepared and flop on our faces, hurt ourselves even more because we were not perfectly ready for it, right? Perfect, perfect, perfect. Life will probably, it teaches you things. It will try to teach you things. If you understand the lesson, you will start working on it like you're doing, like I'm doing, because I also have this problem. And if not, it will keep teaching you the lesson. You will just not see it. You will see it as a constant stream of the same kind of problem. I'm hearing this as a third lesson. Controlling things is not your job. You're not here to control and to try to, fix everything, especially yourself. It's more about learning how to adapt better and how to move along the life as it presents itself. I also think that it makes for a way better story, much more interesting story, like as if you're in a book or a movie. When you are open to these challenges and you get ready to them as they present themselves instead of trying to control everything, it's not very interesting to read or to watch someone who is really kind of forcing their way through instead of just accepting what's happening and incorporating it in their life. The idea that you are a protagonist of your own life is much more interesting than you're a victim of life.
Yeah. The other thing I want to tell people, don't scare from asking help, and it's not weakness. All of us sometimes in some point could be vulnerable, and we are human and it's part of our nature. If we are in that situation, that's the best way to survive. No one will consider that you are weak. You can always ask help, and you can see how people who are around you amazingly try to help you, to support you. This is also something that was very hard for me, and it still is somehow, but I'm learning that it's okay if I sometimes ask help. You cannot control everything. It's okay if sometimes you feel tired or you need help or you need someone just guide you in something. That's totally fine. And it's not only for people who migrate, also for other people who are living in their homeland. Always try to find a way. If asking help is the way, just try it. Never stop.
I think it is a good place to maybe start wrapping it up. Be optimistic, practice optimism, think about the situations that you handled really well, think about the situations when you got help, think about just things that kind of resolve themselves magically and it just happens. It is this beauty of life. Sometimes it is like that. Take care of yourself for real. Treat yourself as the treasure that you are, as a protagonist of your own story. Find ways to replenish your energy resources. If you need to take some time to be sad, to grieve, to cry, it's totally fine. It is hard. It is harder for us, especially if you have a challenging situation like the one that Afif or I are going through right now. It doesn't make you weaker, it doesn't make you a victim, it's just how it is at this moment. Ask for help, don't control things, just be present in the life the way it presents itself to you. Would you like to add something else, Afif?
No, I just thank you for having me. It was a real pleasure to have opportunity to talk to you and also pass the things that I've experienced.
I'm really happy to have you. And thank you so much for sharing your story. Once again, you're giving this very nice, very kind, very heartful energy, this presence. the smile on your face. It's a big, big pleasure always to talk to you.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you.